I'm Melissa and welcome to Oh My Word, Melly. So as we celebrated Women's Day earlier on this week, today's video is purely inspired by women or characters of women in book, and more specifically I thought of bringing y'all some book recommendations with women in STEM representation in them. So if you all don't know what STEM stands for, and I have spoken of this in a few videos before as well, and that is STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and maths. And I am here to talk to you all about books or characters in books of women who are in this science, technology, engineering, and mathematics streams, which I totally love in books. So without further ado, let's see what my recommendations are today. So guys, just to tell y'all that I was inspired to talk about women in STEM after reading Ali Hazelwood's novellas in February, which I absolutely loved. If you want to see my thoughts on those books and what I read in February, click on the link up here. So those books are what inspired me to do this video as well, and like I thought it's the perfect video because we are celebrating Women's Day in March. Starting off, I have to talk about Ali Hazelwood because she did a revolutionary thing about, and like by bringing about STEM characters or women in STEM in books. Like there were books before that, but the hype and everything revolves around Ali Hazelwood, who is, I think, a woman in STEM by herself as well, who decided to become an author, and I absolutely loved the STEMinist novellas which I read, which is Stuck With You, sorry, it starts with, I think, Under One Roof, Stuck With You, and Below Zero. So absolutely loved it. As I spoke of it in my previous video, I'm not going to go into much detail of it, but in Under One Roof, the main character is Mara, and she's an environmental engineer, whereas in Stuck With You, it is Sadie, who is a civil engineer, as well as in Below Zero, it's Hannah, who is a NASA engineer, which I absolutely love. Below Zero was my favorite out of the three novellas because of so many STEM references that, ooh, I was like devouring it. I love when books are geeky and when I can relate to different aspects in books. So that's like going to be my first recommendation. So for me, as a woman in STEM, because I am also in the computer engineering or computer science stream, I love the representation of STEM because I feel women are underrepresented in this category, and like I like that books talk more and more of it. So the second recommendation I have for you is yet again by Ali Hazelwood, because I cannot not talk of this book in this category, and that is The Love Hypothesis. I still haven't read it. I know, shocker, but at least I tried Ali Hazelwood's novellas, and now I know for sure that I'm going to read it someday down the line, and I'm going to enjoy it because of all the STEM references. So the Love Hypothesis also follows this PhD student who is in the stream of biology, so science, and like it has this student and professor vibe, a grumpy sunshine vibe, as well as fake dating. But sadly, I was told it is single POV like all other Ali Hazelwood books, and we have an extra bonus chapter from Adam's POV. So this follows Olive and Adam, if I'm not mistaken. So I need to read this. If you all have read it, I know most of my friends have read it and they love it and they keep saying that I need to read it. If you all have the same opinion, let me know in the comments down below as well. So my next recommendation is a book I have read as well, and that is Safety in Numbers by Sophie Penhaligon. And guys, I think I read this last year. I think the first or second book last year, and I absolutely loved it, mainly because it was in dual POV and that there was a disability representation in this. Like the main character Serafina Ellis had like met with an accident or had some injury which damaged her brain and kind of something like that. So I loved it. And what makes this better is obviously this is also a women in STEM recommendation where Serafina is a mathematician, and also it follows this spicy romance like a billionaire CEO romance where she falls in love with a billionaire CEO scientist as well, where she gets employed at, and it's like a workplace romance, and like oof, the spice, guys. Y'all should read it. If you still haven't read this book, trust me, read it. I got it as an ARC and I absolutely devoured it. I just couldn't believe that book was so amazing. I have seen people having mixed opinions, but guys, for me, trust me, I absolutely loved it. It also has like a slight grumpy sunshine trope in it as well, but nevertheless I just couldn't put it down, so definitely check that book out as well. So guys, this next recommendation I have for you is a book that I am dying to read this year. Like, I know I am going to read it this year. It's in my TBR list for this year, so definitely need to read it, and that is Mistakes Were Made by Merrill Wilsner. I have been told so much about this book and have seen it getting like hyped and all over all the socials, and it's like an LGBTQ adult romance book with so much of spice, I have been saying, and it follows like a FF romance kind of trope with age gap romance and like one night stand gone wrong, and like the author itself says like this is more of an idiots to lovers kind of book, and both female characters are women in STEM. So it's just best of both worlds. Like, it's between a doctor and an aeronautic engineer. So I really can't wait to read it. And like, it's like age gap romance. I know sometimes they take it really far, but I was told it's spot on this book, so I really can't wait to read it. If you all have read this book, or I think Something to Talk About by Merrill Wilsner either, just tell me what y'all thought about the book or the author's writing, because I have heard so much. It's so hyped and I really am excited to read it. So let me know if I should read it or not. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. It's one of the most popular books these days, and it also has a women in STEM representation where the main female character is an econometrician, something where her role is between maths and economics. So need to read it. I have heard so much of it, and like I have the set here, which I still need to read. I really need to read that trilogy somehow. I'm like, it's like fear of missing out for me at the moment. So I really need to read it. So it has fake dating to strangers to lovers, and then it also has a Asian representation, like an indigenous representation. So talking about that, if y'all want to know like a BIPOC romance representation, where it represents like um, different like people of color, then different indigenous characters or different cultures, and I'll check out this recommendation here for books in that category. Anywho, I was told this is spicy, as well as the main female character is an autistic person, so we have an autistic representation. Also, it follows this high society and a low society guy where she has no experience whatsoever in that department, and she gets an escort to help her out, and then they fall in love. So that's what I have been told about this book. Really need to read this. I really do. What am I waiting for? God only knows. I see this book all over TikTok and Instagram since of late, and that is The Trouble with Hating You by Sajni Patel. This also follows a biochemical engineer with this Desi vibe, because it has this book is following like the Indian culture, traditions, food, whatsoever, but this girl is more of a modern girl who is having an arranged marriage from her very traditional parents, and like it's also following an enemies to lovers trope and a workplace romance. So I have a feeling they might be like an arranged marriage with the same person who she has to work with, but they are enemies. I don't know, it can be totally something else because I still haven't read the book. Anywho, uh, so yeah, I love books which have the Desi vibe. Like I really do. I like when there are different, like out of the norm kind of cultures and are represented in books. I love it because I can relate to it as a Sri Lankan as well. And it's also in dual POV, so definitely I'm going to get the story from both characters, and so I am loving it, loving it, loving it. And this book is also following where the male main character falls first of the love interest. So I love that. We always see the girl falling first, right? I need to read more books. Or have I read books with where the guy falls first? I definitely think I have. But yeah, anywho, so that's about The Trouble with Hating You by Sajni Patel. I see this book too, like blowing up on Instagram, especially it was like really prominent on Women's Day, and that is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. And it's more of like a historical romance, historical comedy kind of book, which is set in the 1950s, 1960s kind of era, where it follows a female chemist, right? A female chemist who ends up becoming like a cooking show host, who stands up against sexism, unfairness, and also inequality, especially in the STEM industry. So she stands up for feminism and also the inequality that she faced after being a chemist, which led her to be this cooking show host. And this book is a beautiful, beautifully written book, is what everyone keeps saying, and that if you get through the first few chapters, you are hooked. Need to read it. I'm not someone who likes that much of historical set books, but I really want to try this because I love chemistry. I used to love it as a kid as well. And this is an epic example of a strong woman who fights for what is right, and also who carves their own future, their own path. And it's very empowering, I have been told. So I really need to read it. If you all have read it, you all can let me know what you all thought. But if you all still haven't, I think this is also another book that you all have to definitely check out. So my last recommendation for the day is The Unbalanced Equation by H.L. MacFarlane. And I have been told that if people like the love hypothesis, we should read this book as well. So it follows genetic researchers and has more of a 90s rom-com vibe with enemies to lovers vibe, as well as an age gap romance between the postdoc or the PhD student and her PhD assessor, with a lot of forced proximity. I think like a Bunsen burner kind of situation where it burns down the professor's lab, and it's made them like forced proximity where he has to go and work where this girl is working as well, and a lot of miscommunication. There are, I don't know, mixed reviews for this where they say the miscommunication is like pushed to its extreme, which is really annoying. Something I really don't like in books. Miscommunication is one of my most hated tropes ever. But I have been told it's, if we love hypothesis, this is something we would enjoy as well. So I'll check it out someday down the line, I guess. If y'all are interested, y'all can check it out as well. So those were 8 recommendations I had with women in STEM representation in books, which I clearly love, like I have said. If y'all do like women in STEM representation as well, I think y'all should check these out. If y'all enjoyed this video as much as I did filming this, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, as well as share this with friends and family. Also, if y'all don't want to miss out any of my future videos, click on that subscribe button and the little bell notification so that you get notified every time I post new videos. With that, I think it's time for me to wrap up this video, and with the promises of seeing y'all next week with a more fun and bookish video, here is me saying bye from Oh My Word, Melly.